Master Reddit. Subscribe for more videos.
What is the worst thing that has happened at a high school reunion party that you attended? The people who were supposed to plan our high school reunion dropped the ball, so I figured it wouldn't happen. But then this other dude from our high school stepped up to plan it. He was in a graduate program and also working part-time at a banquet hall, and he said that his boss would give us the banquet hall space for free. It was a really nice gesture, and he seemed really into it. He had been miserable in high school. Grumpy, sullen, unpleasant, mean to other people. He came out in college, so maybe the weight of having to keep it a secret was part of why he was so unpleasant. Maybe he'd be more fun now. I was working a shit job and had no savings at the time, so I was neither interested in having my former classmates pity me nor was I gunning to shell out a lot of money to attend. Plus my shitty ex might be there and that didn't feel worth it. The organizer made a Facebook event and asked people to Venmo him the cost of admission prior to attending. He wanted something like $15 minus 20 a head, I can't remember. Anyway, it didn't really feel worth paying for. Maybe if there would be some drinks included or something, I would go for an hour. I sent him a private message asking what the admissions ticket covered. Food? Drinks? The space was free, after all. He posted publicly on the Facebook page that if the cost of admission was too steep, message me and we can work out some financial aid. What? I then publicly posted, asking what the admission cost covered. No response. Other people asked too. He said it would go towards having a bartender and server dedicated to the event space, as well as towards food. Okay, fair. Folks, he was the server. My friend showed up having not yet paid him, and he barred her entry. The people who had paid the admission cost showed up to an empty banquet hall, were given a menu by their former classmate, and told to order their own food and drink from him. He pocketed the admission ticket money as his fee. After an hour, he brought out one grocery store sheet cake for 75 people to share. That was it. Lol, I am envisioning people fighting for the shitty cake. It wasn't really bad, just odd. A guy came with full Kiss-style makeup on, white face, black shapes around his eyes and black lips. We were too awkward and polite to mention it, so everyone just chatted with him as though it was completely normal to turn up like that. Is it possible that he just did it as a private joke, the idea being to remain straight-faced and watch people squirm? Or was he just a really big Kiss fan? I'd hope so because that's fucking funny. Not so much at but before. 10-year reunion for my largest school, 500 graduates per year. The plan was for the reunion to take place over Thanksgiving weekend. To help pay for the expense, raffle tickets were sent out to the entire class to sell. The reunion didn't happen. What were they going to do that couldn't be handled by just asking each attendee to pay $20 to $50, with some help available for people where paying $50 would be a hardship? At my 25th reunion, people complained about having to pay $40. When someone suggested that they would be willing to throw a couple of bucks towards anyone not being able to afford the fee, it became a shit show of privilege versus I'm not taking your charity. I was afraid something like this would happen at our reunion, so my wife and I anonymously paid for a bunch of shit and never fessed up it was us. A lot of unemployment where we grew up, one of the reasons we got the fuck out and only go back to visit. Graduated in 2008 and not a single word about any reunion. A lot of schools don't do them. It's one of those traditions that sometimes pop up. And it's much harder to do with high schools with thousands of people. Thousands of people? I had a bit over 80 people in my year. Don't live in the US, but of a different school system etc., but still. We were less than 1,000 people in our school altogether. Reunions seem to have waned in popularity since social media blew up. You don't need to catch up in person when you see every inane detail of your former classmates lives online. I think it's probably a combination of that and longer time spent in early adulthood, continuing education. A few decades ago, the 10-year reunion would have been an opportunity to see how your classmates were settling into their own lives. Now we know every detail through social media, and a lot are still in the early stages of the process of stepping out on their own, moving out of home, finishing education, etc. I didn't go to my 10-year but my entire friend group did, and they all called me asking where I was. While on the phone with one of them, he goes, "Oh shit, Brittany is here." Brittany was a train wreck in high school and apparently hadn't changed in 10 years. She proceeded to get trashed, get in a fight with a waitress and did meth in the bathroom. Police picked her up that night after she was found her passed out in the McDonald's bathroom. Not mine, but my husband's. 10-year anniversary for high school graduates. The whole thing was really just sloppily slapped together and it was pretty clear the class was not interested in getting together. The gathering place kept changing every couple weeks. This was updated via Facebook group, by the way. At first, it was renting a place and getting food catered and whatnot. Except it's pretty typical in my town for most people not to go on to be successful by any means, so asking mostly unemployed or minimum wage workers to cough up I think $200 to attend just didn't work out. Venues kept downgrading to accommodate until they got down to having a bonfire out by the lake, BYOB, no fee, just come hang out for like, an hour or something. Throughout the fiasco of finding a venue, a majority of the class declined going. Some had to change status. There was a good handful still marked as going, but with everything changing and people obviously starting to tune out midway through, a lot of people forgot to change their status of going to not going. 2 people showed up. That was it. One was my brother, who had nothing better to do anyway. Other guy that sort of helped put the crap show together showed up. The gal that set the whole thing up was pretty mad about it and the Rondo dude that helped posted a long rant on the Facebook about how awful people were and how they should have appreciated the efforts it took just to hold the pathetic gathering. My husband had me sit and flip through the page after everything was said and done. It was pretty obvious the gal was in serious denial the entire time, despite it being pretty clear nobody wanted anything to do with the event. I laughed at the rant, then honestly forgot about it until I saw this thread. Edit, I failed to mention my brother and husband were in the same year. They were buddies throughout high school, college, and even now. I'm just a little younger, hence why I was not part of the reunion and my brother was. And no, husband refused to go to the reunion because clicking through Facebook profiles was enough to check on people he had any curiosity about. Plus we had just moved states right around this time, so traveling was not on our list of to do anytime soon. Sounds exactly like my 10-year reunion. About 10 to 12 people ended up showing up. I didn't go, but saw the pictures on Facebook, and the girl who organized it posted a long rant on the Facebook event page. I found the whole thing quite amusing as I've always disliked this particular girl and she was a huge bitch to me in high school. Some girl confessed to cheating on her high school sweetheart, thinking enough time had passed it wouldn't bother him. She thought wrong. Edit, I just realized I spelled school. Wait, is she still together with her high school sweetheart? Or she saw an old fling at the reunion and casually admitted to cheating on him? The second. They hadn't seen each other in years as far as I know. At my 20-year reunion, 2 decades after high school, 2 guys got arrested for fist fighting on the sidewalk outside the bar we went to Friday night. Why were they fighting? One of the guys slept with the other guy's girlfriend in high school, and drunkenly brought up the 20 years ago fling. Neither if they married her, or even dated her after high school. Those idiots got charges 20 years later for her, though. These kinda stories really make me paranoid about if any of my high school girlfriends cheated on me until I realize I've never had a girlfriend. Guess I win. My sister, my now husband and I were all in the same graduating class. Plus, my husband's best friend. Best friend's name is something like John Smith. Very common. He was very popular in HS. Super nice guy, stood out in a crowd. If you didn't know him you certainly knew of him. Even in a massive school. So anyway, the 20 years reunion rolls around, my sister is the only one who wanted to go. She called right after, very upset. Apparently there was a huge memorial wall for John Smith, who had just died. None of us knew. Awful. My husband was like, huh? But we just saw him? Called him up and was like, hey dude, are you dead? No, not dead. Surprised, but not dead. Anyway, it turned out the much less popular other John Smith was the one who died. They made a lovely memorial for the wrong guy, who was forgotten totally. We still run into people to this day who see him and are like, hey, aren't you supposed to be dead? There was this girl that was pretty weird in high school and she had a crush on my friend. My friend was awful to her and made fun of her constantly. It's getting towards the end and everyone is a little buzzed. He says I'm going to go apologize to her. I said, don't do it man, sure it will make you feel better, but for her it's probably just bringing up bad memories. Anyway, he goes up to her and apologizes, she gives him a big hug, thanks him and then says, "I know where your grandmother's gravestone is, I visit it from time to time." He yells, "What the FCK is wrong with you, you fucking creep," and storms off. It was surreal. I was expecting the story to end with her saying that she peed on the gravestone or something like that. My class never got to the reunion part. Our class president was Mia. When they tried to plan our 5-year reunion on Facebook, it devolved into people fighting over the venue and whether or not kids were allowed. Half the people wanted to get trashed and get away from their kids if they had any. The other half wanted a dry reunion in a local park with kids allowed. Our class also had no money because they spent it on stupid crap senior year, so people argued over whether it would be catered or a potluck, and how much they would collect from everyone if it was the former. I would not have gone even if they'd managed to figure something out. In my opinion, 5-year reunions shouldn't happen. It hasn't been long enough. Wait at least 10 years to start and then you can do whatever cadence feels right after that. Our 10-year reunion had 3 events: informal drinks at a bar on a Friday night, Saturday afternoon at a park with kids, then Saturday night with dinner and dancing. I assume everyone was satisfied. I didn't bother going to our 20-year reunion as anyone I cared to keep up with I could via Facebook. One guy had made not one but 2 fortunes and had a net worth of well over $100 million by our 20th reunion. High-speed modem patents in the late 1980s, early investor in broadband. Right place at the right time. He'd already retired. On our classmate update bulletin he listed his occupation as unemployed and unemployable as a bit of a gag. Some of the well-meaning but clueless types sought him out to offer encouragement and tips on how to find work. I've met 2 billionaires through work. One does work, and the other happily, oh so happily, lives the life most of us only dream of. He's a super nice guy and mentioned he might go back to work after his kids are grown. He says he's lucky enough to be home with them. I managed executive suites in Dallas about a decade ago and a billionaire recluse officed out of one of the offices. Very quiet and unassuming. Was also a crossdresser. German dude whose family made their fortunes in ball bearings since the early 20th century. He actually one of the top 100 richest people in the world. Crazy sitting across a desk from someone like that and just shooting the shit. Didn't happen to me, but I had this friend who got someone pregnant back in the day and she kept the kid. They've both been great about it. He helps financially but that was the extent of his contribution. She married soon out of high school and met a great guy who has been the de facto dad. Either way, it's a day bring your kids if you have them event and someone let slip that my friend is that kid's real dad. And the kid heard it and it was a fucking shit show. Everyone was trying to figure out who said that, and how could someone spill that secret, etc. In the end my friend pretended he was shocked, and laughed it off as a joke, which honestly I front of the kid was probably a good move. At least the kid has 2 loving parents. That's the most important thing.